82% of pregnant women drink caffeine. Your doctor says keep it under 200 milligrams and you're fine. But the largest brain imaging study of children says that guideline may not be fully protecting your baby's brain. That number was calculated based upon how a non-pregnant woman processes caffeine. During pregnancy, the enzyme that breaks down caffeine, CYP1A2, reduces in capacity by up to 65%. A 2025 pharmacokinetics review confirmed this. 33% reduction in the first trimester, 48% in the second, and 65% reduction by the third trimester. That stretches caffeine's half-life from a normal 4 to 5 hours to a whopping 11 to 18 hours. Nobody adjusted the guideline for that. And that matters because caffeine doesn't actually give you energy. It blocks a molecule called adenosine, which is your brain's way of signaling that energy is running low. The adenosine is still building up. The fatigue is still there. You just can't feel it. So you have a molecule masking exhaustion, and during pregnancy, it can stay in your system for up to 18 hours. Now, here's where it can get worse. Strike one, your body's ability to break down caffeine while pregnant is cut by 65%. And that's just you. That's before it ever even reaches your baby. Strike two, your placenta does not have the CYP1A2 enzyme. None. There is no filtration happening there. Caffeine does not slow down the placenta. It just passes straight through into the baby's bloodstream. And because of the concentration gradient, fetal blood often ends up with caffeine levels about 17% higher than the mother's. Your baby is getting more caffeine than you. Strike three, your baby's liver cannot express CYP1A2 at all. It's not reduced, it's not limited. This gene is absent in the baby. The enzyme simply isn't there, and it will not be there until roughly 8 months after birth. 3 checkpoints, 0 working filters. So the caffeine, it just lingers. In a newborn's, caffeine's half-life isn't 4 or 5 hours like in adults. It can last 50 to 103 hours. Monday's coffee hasn't cleared when Tuesday's arrives. Wednesday's arrives before Tuesday's have cleared. Your baby is bathed in caffeine continuously with no way to clear it and no way to signal that anything is wrong. And while caffeine sits there, it's doing the same things to your baby that it does to you. Caffeine triggers adrenaline, norepinephrine. These tighten blood vessels feeding your placenta. One study showed a 25% reduction in placental blood flow after just 200 milligrams of caffeine. Less blood flow means less oxygen and nutrients reaching your baby. Caffeine also directly stimulates your baby's heart, increasing fetal heart rate and the frequency of uterine contractions. Newborns of caffeine-consuming mothers have actually shown withdrawal symptoms after birth. And there's one more thing. Caffeine blocks non-heme iron absorption by up to 80%. That's the primary form of iron in most prenatal vitamins. A woman taking her prenatal with morning coffee is losing most of the iron her baby needs. Iron deficiency drives more fatigue, which drives more caffeine. It's a vicious cycle. Chapter 2. Brain scans show how prenatal caffeine affects baby's brain development. The ABCD study. The ABCD study is the largest long-term brain development study ever conducted. It's tracking nearly 12,000 children from age 9 into adulthood across 21 research sites. And when researchers looked at this data set, they found something striking. Prenatal caffeine exposure, even below 200 milligrams a day, was linked to measurable differences in the developing brain visible on an MRI. The first analysis examined 9,978 children, and they found that prenatal caffeine exposure was associated with delayed cortical pruning and thinning. And this is a critical process for brain maturation. This was present even below the 200 milligram threshold. The second analysis, looking at 9,157 children, identified significant alterations in white matter microstructure. These children showed decreased working memory, task efficiency, and motor function. Behavioral measures such as externalizing, internalizing, and neural developmental markers were all elevated. The effect size was comparable to prenatal alcohol and cannabis exposure. Separately, the CARE study tracked 2,635 pregnancies, and they looked for a threshold. A threshold is a level below which caffeine stops causing harm. They didn't find one. Every additional 100 milligrams increased fetal growth restriction odds by 14%. And the women who actually cut their intake of caffeine the most had babies weighing 161 grams more. So the brain scans show real structural changes, but what's causing them? The answer lies in an enzyme most doctors have never discussed with a pregnant patient. And once you understand what it does and what caffeine does to it, you'll never think about morning coffee the same way. Chapter 3, How Caffeine May Change Your Baby's Gene Programming. DNMT3A Explained. There's an enzyme called DNMT3A. It writes the epigenetic instructions that tell every cell in your baby's body which genes to turn on and which to silence. It operates during one window in early development. Then that window closes permanently. Caffeine suppresses this enzyme by 2/3, leaving only 1/3 to program your baby for life. Your baby's DNA is the blueprint. DNA methylation is what decides which part of that blueprint can get read. An enzyme called DNMT3A is responsible for placing those methylation tags for the very first time. It does not maintain old ones. It writes completely new instructions. And this only happens during a very short window in development. Once that window closes, the programming is set for life. A University of Florida study examined human stem cells from umbilical cords of caffeine-exposed pregnancies. The high caffeine group showed about a 30% decrease in global DNA methylation. Researchers also found that DNMT3A was operating at roughly 29% of normal activity. When that enzyme slows down, fewer methylation marks get written, which helps explain the drop in overall methylation levels. These were real pregnancies, not extreme laboratory doses. And it's not just caffeine. Tea and coffee also contain other natural compounds that can slow down DNMT3A. This is the enzyme responsible for placing those gene programming tags. Animal studies suggest the effects on gene programming may even carry forward into future generations, including your grandchildren, who were never directly exposed. There is no correction at age 2. There are no medical procedures at age 30. What DNMT3A writes or fails to write during those early weeks becomes the permanent operating manual for your child's genetic expression. Soon I'm going to show you exactly how to replace caffeine and fix the real cause of your fatigue. But first, you need to understand why this risk isn't the same for every woman, because your genes change everything about what safe actually means. Chapter 4, Why Caffeine Affects Women Differently, the CYP1A2 gene. 2 women can drink the same cup of coffee. One clears it in 4 hours. The other still has caffeine circulating around 9 hours later. During pregnancy, that gap becomes even more extreme. Remember CYP1A2, the enzyme that breaks down caffeine? You have a gene that controls how much of this enzyme that you produce. Some people make a lot of it, and they're called fast metabolizers. Others make very little, and they're called slow metabolizers. The difference between the fastest and the slowest is up to 15-fold, and these genetics are not evenly distributed among different ethnicities. Slow metabolizer variants are significantly more common in South Asian and East Asian populations than in Europeans, and the 200 milligram guideline was built primarily on European data. A genetic test will tell you which one you are. During pregnancy, every woman becomes a slow metabolizer, but slow gets dramatically slower. A slow metabolizer in the 3rd trimester may have a half-life of caffeine exceeding 20 hours. 1 cup takes about 4 days to fully clear. Daily coffee means that fetus is exposed to a continuously rising pool of caffeine that never resets. Now stack what else is happening in most other pregnancies. 50 to 65 of pregnant women take acetaminophen. When CYP1A2 is suppressed, both caffeine and acetaminophen reroute through the same backup enzyme, CYP2E1. Both generate toxic byproducts. Both consume glutathione, your body's master antioxidant. By the 3rd trimester, glutathione is at roughly 1/8 of baseline. 2 substances competing for one depleted safety net. 44% of pregnant women have clinical insomnia. Caffeine's extended half-life disrupts sleep. Worse sleep drives more fatigue. More fatigue drives more caffeine. Caffeine also raises cortisol, which is already tripled by the 3rd trimester. This is not a hypothetical loop. It is the daily reality of millions of pregnancies. If you're stacking caffeine, acetaminophen, and poor sleep, you're not facing one risk factor, you're facing 3 that compound each other. So the real question isn't, is 200 milligrams safe? It's, what's actually causing my fatigue, and can I fix it without caffeine? The answer is yes, and it's simpler than you think. Chapter 5, Why You're Tired During Pregnancy. It's not a caffeine deficiency. The reason you're exhausted during pregnancy isn't a caffeine deficiency. It's a signal that something in your body is depleted. Caffeine hides that signal while often making the depletion worse. So instead of chasing energy with another cup of coffee, the real solution is to fix what's actually causing the fatigue. And in most cases, it comes down to three things. First, B vitamins. Adenosine, the molecule that caffeine blocks, is actually a breakdown product of ATP. And ATP is the energy molecule that powers all of your cells. When B vitamins are insufficient, ATP production drops. As ATP falls, adenosine builds up, and that's what creates a feeling of fatigue. Active B vitamins like methylfolate, methylcobalamin, and riboflavin help restore mitochondrial energy production. Second, electrolytes and hydration. Even mild dehydration, just 1 to 2%, can reduce cellular energy production. During pregnancy, your blood volume expands 40 to 50%, which increases your need for fluids and electrolytes. A morning electrolyte drink can replace the coffee ritual and actually address the underlying cause. Even better if that electrolyte contains ATP, so you're hydrating and directly fueling your cells at the same time. Third, iron. Don't just check hemoglobin, check ferritin, which reflects your iron stores. A ferritin above 30 is generally the minimum target. And never take your prenatal with coffee. Caffeine can reduce iron absorption by up to 91%. Now, if you've already been drinking caffeine, don't panic. Start by hydrating. Eat cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and cauliflower. These have been shown to actually increase CYP1A2 activity by 20 all the way up to 40%. Skip the next cup of coffee and try to leave 24 to 36 hours between caffeine doses. You can also replace the morning coffee ritual. Rooibos tea is naturally caffeine-free. It contains no tannins, doesn't block iron absorption, and provides minerals like calcium and magnesium. I'll link more alternatives in the description. Finally, make sure your prenatal includes active B vitamins, adequate vitamin C, and glutathione support. And if you want to understand your personal caffeine metabolism, a CYP1A2 genetic test or strategy report can tell you whether you're a fast or slow caffeine metabolizer. And that information can change everything. If you're pregnant or planning to be, watch my video on green tea next, because caffeine isn't the only thing in your cup affecting your baby's development. What green tea does to folate is something every expecting mother needs to understand.